Get my 6.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most awesomest homesteading channel on the internet that has nothing to do with homesteading, nothing in the least. Homesteading off the grid. And welcome back for some more tales here on a beautiful October night. So today we're going to kick it a little bit old school and go with a couple of stories from True Hauntings Volume 1. Personal stories of real experiences with the paranormal, supernatural, cryptids, aliens, and UFOs. The majority of these stories are submitted from viewers of our YouTube channel. Some have come by way of readers who have discovered these books on Amazon, where you can get your copies in print or Kindle. You can also get autographed versions from our Etsy store. The links to both places are in the description box below. If you have a story that you would like for us to share, send it to us with your permission to do so here on the channel. The email address is crazylake@mail.com. We'll read your story on the channel and we'll put it in an upcoming True Hauntings volume. Volume 5 is being put together now from all the stories coming in October. A lot of people, it seems, are in a good ghost storytelling mood here this month. And of course, with Halloween coming, why not? So hopefully we'll have volume 5 out by Christmas. So anyway, just to get to the story, because that's why you're here, not to hear all of my shameless self-promotion. Let's start with, I dog-eared a couple here. Here we go. You know, we talk a lot about cryptids on this channel, such as him, her, it, or they, hide-and-seek world champion. And remember to constantly be looking around in the background here, because you never know who or what may or may not show up back there. People have seen, I mean, this is not me telling you this, it's people in the comments section have seen so many potentially seen Bigfoot, Sasquatch so many times in some of these videos you can't count them anymore, okay? Ghosts, faces in trees, Civil War ghosts. There's a woman in a dress back there, wedding dress, an old man, an old hermit, white boy who was like a phantom type apparition. Got to look out for old Red Eyes, Jim Brown. You just never know who or what might show up. So watch and listen. This story is about a dog man. It's a story called Night of the Dog Man. Hello, Kevin. My name is Brittany. Brittany. You probably know me by Brittany Loves the Outdoors. I've been watching your channel ever since you have been on YouTube. I had something happen to me when I was younger that I cannot explain. I was around 15 or 16 at the time and at my granny's house. I always stayed there. She was more of a mother to me than my own. She lived deep in the woods in Saltville, Virginia. Oh, another Virginia gal. It was a small town where everyone knew each other. Well, she lived right beside a creek. I loved playing in it so much that I would walk in it and in some parts swim up and down in it. My granny had to come find me a few times. She always said there is something out there and you need to stay close to the house. I didn't think anything of it, like most teens wouldn't have, and well, I was mistaken. One afternoon, I went out playing in the creek behind her house. Something was different. I couldn't tell what it was at first because the noise from the creek was so loud. I couldn't hear anything, but I smelled a horrible smell. It smelled like dead animal and urine mixed together. I couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was watching me. I went to my big favorite rock and didn't think anything else about it. I could go and sit and think and just get away. I loved my special spot, but that feeling kept getting stronger. Well, I looked around towards the barn and I saw something big and hairy dart behind it. This was across from where I was sitting at the big rock. I freaked out and ran across the creek. In the process of running, my foot slipped off of a rock and it rolled my ankle. I fell down and was sitting on the side of the bank. All I cared about was getting out of there. I was sitting there trying to gather myself when all of a sudden I heard footsteps behind me. My eyes were tearing up at this point. I knew this thing was going to eat me. Well, it was my granny behind me. She heard me scream when I fell. She helped me into the house and put ice on my ankle. I couldn't get what I saw out of my mind. My granny didn't have dogs that lived near her, and in the back of my mind, I was thinking it was a bear. But I knew it wasn't. It was on 2 legs, walking like a human. Later that night, I laid down upstairs. I still had that feeling that something was watching me, but there wasn't anyone around. My granny was asleep. We were the only people there. Why was I feeling like something was watching me? Then I thought back from earlier when I felt that feeling at the creek. I got up and went downstairs and opened the side door, then went out onto her deck that wrapped around her house. Brittany, are you crazy? I walked around it trying to calm myself once again, and then I saw it. It was standing right behind her well house. It was a wolf-looking like creature. It had a face like a canine, and when it realized I saw it, it perked its ears up and let out this piercing scream. I swear that thing stood at least 7 feet tall. Its head was over the top of the well house. I watched, frozen in fear. It was sniffing the air like it knew I was there. I quietly made it back inside, and then I heard it scream again. I ran to my granny's room, telling her I knew what was outside, and I was never going back to my special spot again. She moved a few months after that. That was my first and only encounter I've ever had. I don't think it was paranormal. It looked pretty real to me. Thank you, Kevin. If you share this story, I give you permission to mention my name. As we have, Brittany. Brittany, thank you for your story. I know there are tons of you out there watching right now who have had these experiences. You need to email them to us, crazylake@mail.com, and get them in print so that they are preserved, so these stories can be told forever, you know? Thank you, Brittany, for your story. Now, let's move on to another one here, because these stories are a little shorter than the long-winded diatribes I have a tendency to write. So, this one is called Ghost Tractor. It's one of my favorites from this one. I read it on the channel more than a year ago, though, and there's like 100,000 of you here that weren't here last year, so it's going to be new to most of you. Hi, Mr. Lake. First of all, I want to let you know that I absolutely love your YouTube channel, Homesteading Off the Grid. I have watched your videos for years. Some have made me laugh, others have made me cry, and more than one have made me take a good hard look at how I'm living my life. I love your unique view on things. If you don't like doing it, why do it? If it ain't your problem, don't make it your problem. Amen, sister. The whole while being deeply concerned and considerate about your fellow man. You, sir, are a rare gem in our society gone mad. Anyway, I think I have a story for you. This is something I'm not quite sure about, but I do have a theory, and frankly, I'm surprised that we have not heard more stories along these lines over the past quarter century, but perhaps in time we will. Here goes. So my family and I, my husband and our 2 sons, ages 6 and 8, live in a very simple subdivision in North Carolina. It's not fancy, it's what most folks would consider a subdivision of starter homes. This is the role it is playing for us. Our house is relatively small, 1,500 square meters, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and it sits on a half-acre lot. Nothing even close to fancy. However, our mortgage is very affordable, and we don't have to go into debt to live an artificial lifestyle. My husband and I are both in our early 30s, and we believe that by the time we're in our early 40s, we'll be living in a larger house on a bigger piece of land, and we believe that's being made possible by living within our means rather than above them, like so many other people in our society. Sure, they might have bigger houses and nicer cars than us now, but my husband and I both sleep very easily at night, and like you, we understand that life is a marathon, not a sprint. Sounds like you got your head on your shoulders. But here's the thing about our subdivision. I swear to Pete, I believe it's haunted. You hear that, Pete? So, the history of the land is common in our area, as well as yours probably in your part of Virginia. The land was once a sizable farm. The last farmer to actively farm it died probably in the mid-1990s. He was a World War II veteran, and the story we heard was that as soon as his children, all baby boomers, inherited the land, they sold it off to the land developers, and our subdivision was built. The last house was sold and moved into just at the turn of the present century. Yep, I can concur. That was a common story around here, around the Central Virginia area. Boomers getting their hands on the family farm, been in the family for generations. They were cashing out, and they're all subdivisions now. Out where I live in my particular part of the county, it's not the case. These folks have put the land in conservation easements, which means you can't build on them for like a century. And it's a beautiful thing because as Charlottesville has slowly grown into a suburb of Richmond, this end of the county looks like it did 50 years ago, and 100 years from now it'll look the same. I love that. I think that's a beautiful thing. We've lived here 6 years, continuing with her story. We've lived here 6 years, and ever since our first year here, we have been awakened early in the mornings by the sound of a tractor doing laps around the subdivision, but not by way of the roads. It sounds as if the thing is doing loops, as if the land were still a hayfield and the houses weren't here. I swear, Mr. Lake, I have been lying there in bed just as the sun was coming up in the summer, and I could hear what sounded like a tractor coming straight for the side of the house. that my bedroom is on, only to have it go silent for a few seconds and then start again on the opposite side of the house. For some reason, the noise cannot be heard while this ghost tractor is passing through my house. The first few times I heard it, I wrote it off to an airplane flying overhead. There's an airport about 10 miles up the road from us, and we are on a direct path to the runway. However, after about the fourth or fifth time, I mentioned it to my husband, and he was like, "Oh my God, I've heard it too." He said that once, since he had to pee, he actually got out of bed and went outside and looked up into the sky, and there wasn't a single plane in sight. It was right at dawn, and the blinking lights on any plane would have been clearly visible, but there were none. After we'd lived here for a while and made some friends and gotten comfortable with a few of them, we mentioned it to other people, and they all said they've heard it too, and ever since they've moved in. I'm friends with a woman who lives on the opposite side of our subdivision. My older son is in the same grade as her youngest, and when I asked her about it, she said, "That's nothing. Wait until you hear it backfire." Mr. Lake, it wasn't a week after she told me that I indeed heard the ghost tractor backfire. Now here's another weird thing. We never hear this in the winter. According to folks around here who can remember the layout of the farm, the barn was considerably far from us, so in the winter, there would have been no reason for the farmer to be riding his tractor close to where our house is built, as all the hay for the cows would have been in the barn, which was located on the far end of the subdivision. So the fact that we only hear this in the summer and fall, the times of year that hay is cut, further leads me to believe that this subdivision is haunted. I'm sorry that I went on too long with my story, but I've been holding it in for so long, other than when I've shared it with friends and neighbors, that I feel like I had to get it all out. You have my permission to share my story on your YouTube channel or put it in a book of similar stories if you'd like. Just please only use my first name because you know how judgmental most people can be. Thanks for giving us all an outlet to share our tales. Sincerely, Becky, Albemarle, North Carolina. Becky, I have spent the night in a hotel in Albemarle, North Carolina, on my way down to the Outer Banks. It was 10 o'clock at night. I was too tired. I was only an hour away. And when I get tired and I'm driving, I get off the road. Got off the road in Albemarle, which ironically is the name of the county I live in here in Virginia. So Becky, thank you for your tale. Brittany loves the outdoors. Thank you for yours. Folks, if you have a story that you would like to submit to the channel, do so with your permission to use it. The email address again is crazylake@mail.com. I hope all of you enjoyed another tale on a beautiful October night. Make sure to come back tomorrow night as well as every night in the month of October to hear more. See you then.